So what are the health effect for ionizing radiation like chronic? Chronic means long term effect to human body. Like if you are exposed to ionizing radiation, what are the long term effect? So there is two example: cancer and genetic damage. Cancer, we all knows that means if you are exposed later, if you are exposed to ionizing radiation later, there is chances of cancer. Another is genetic damage. So the damage cannot be repaired, causing the cell to undergo programmed cell death and or leading to a mutation. So how we what there is different types of quantifying exposures. So we will going to see what is BQ, what is SV. Radioactively uh, vacuated an extreme of the likelihood amount of radiation being emitted, and equivalent dose sievert measure of the likelihood biological damage resulting from radiation exposure, SV. So dose rate, what is dose rate? Dose absorbed in unit time and indicates the amount of radioactive dose received by a person within a certain period of time. This is known as dose rate. Application of dose limit is different classes of person. So these are all the health these are all the ionizing radiation health effect. So what are the measurement of radiation and exposure? So measurement of radiation and exposure is passive dosimeters. So there is a TLD, thermo luminescent dosimeters is the commonly used passive dosimeter which can be worn as a badge on work clothing to eliminate dose to the abdomen or in a ring from form of the finger to estimate close to the hands. The principle of the operation is that the material of the dosimeter emits light following heat treatment which is proportional to the degree of exposure to the radiation. So active dosimeter, what is active dosimeters? So personal alarm dosimeter is a electronic device, typically battery operated, worn by the worker that records exposure during the work period. Also the device incorporates an audible alarm, so giving early warnings of potential overexposure. So ionizing radiation practical measures to prevent or minimize exposure. What are the practical measures we will going to see? First one is time, second one is distance, third one is shielding. These are all the examples. So by reducing the time of the exposure to the radiation, the accumulated dose is reduced. Means we can reduce time where we are working in workplace, there is radiation, so we can reduce the time of employee who is exposed. So this is the preventive measures. So distance, by increasing the distance from the source of person, the dose of radiation is reduced. So we can reduce by reducing distance we can prevent. These are the preventive measures. So we can reduce distance. So alpha and beta particles do not travel long distance through air. That's why we are taking these examples. So that's why we are doing preventive maintenance for this distance. Why workers who means while working, if workers are if there is very long distance, so it will not expose. So alpha and beta particles, we see the example also. Alpha and beta particles do not travel long distance through air. What neutrons, x-rays and gamma rays travel much greater distance through air, but in doing so they obey the inverse square law. So third example is shielding. Using materials to absorb the radiation so that it cannot pass through different types and thickness of shielding materials and use for different radiation source. Beta particles can be stopped with a few millimeters of aluminum or thin brass. So these are all the example. X-ray and gamma rays require thicker dense materials such as lead. Neutron sources are often enclosed in thick concrete enclosure or hydro-rich materials such as paraffin, wax, or water. So these are all the preventive measures for ionizing radiation. These are all the examples of preventive measures. So preventive measures to practical measures to prevent or minimize exposure. What are the practical measures we are going to see? Respiratory protective equipment and other PPE to prevent skin contaminations. This is protective PPEs we have to use. Another is prohibition of eating, drinking, and smoking where there is radiation. So means we can means we can this is another example we can do like this. We have to prohibit it an area where there is radiation dose for eating, drinking, and smoking. Good hygiene practice such as routine hand washing or after source handling, like some of employees who is working at that place, they should means practice regularly hand wash, means before eating or anything. They have to maintain clear hygiene at their workplace. Radiation protection officers, there is RPOs also, are technically competent person designated by the employer to survey the application of radiation protection regulation standards and rules and provide advice on all relevant aspects of radiation protection. So in that industry there is RTPOs also, employer they are higher for this work. So health surveillance of workers engaged in radiation work should be based on the general principle of occupational health. So these are all the preventive measures how to minimize exposure of radiations. So we have finished this topic of radiation. Hope you guys understand. So thank you so much guys for watching this video.